Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about the fatal stampede at the GloRilla concert, Elon Musk's Twitter paranoia, and Prince Harry's substance use exposed. First up, have you heard what happened at the GloRilla concert? On Sunday at her show in Rochester, New York, there was a disastrous crowd rush that left 2 people dead and 8 people injured. According to reports, audience members apparently thought they heard a firearm go off after the concert ended at around 11 p.m. Everyone then ran towards the exits at the same time, which caused a massive crowd surge. When police entered the venue, they found 3 women critically injured, including 33-year-old Rondisha Belton, who then died at the hospital. A second woman who was aged 35 also died from her injuries, while another one remains in critical condition. The other 7 people are not believed to have life-threatening injuries. The strange thing is that law enforcement found no evidence of firearms or stabbings at the venue, so they're now investigating multiple causes for the stampede. In a statement, the police said, "We are hearing many reports of potential causes. Preliminary reports from people at the scene indicate that these injuries were caused from being trampled. They suggest that the chaos could have been started by either the crowd size, firearms, or something like pepper spray." The mayor of Rochester, Malik D. Evans, said that the incident was totally unacceptable and a tragedy of epic proportions. Quote, "When you go to a concert, you do not expect to be trampled. Your loved ones expect you to be able to come home. We are going to hold people accountable for what happened last night, period. I intend to get to the bottom of this." One fan who was stuck in the crowd surge spoke to a local news station about the experience. She said, "Me and the girl next to me were climbing on each other trying to get each other up. I was watching the life flash before my eyes and I still didn't know what was going on." She said she remembered telling herself, "You gotta get up, you gotta go home. If you stay here, they're going to keep running you over." After the news of the tragedy hit the headlines, GloRilla took to Twitter claiming that she was not aware of the incident until after she left the venue. She wrote, "I am devastated and heartbroken over the tragic deaths that happened after Sunday's show. My fans mean the world to me, praying for their families and for a speedy recovery of everyone affected." In response, fans tweeted messages of support to the artist and the victims of the tragedy. Naturally, there were also a lot of people comparing this incident to the Astroworld concert in 2021, which saw 10 people lose their lives and dozens injured in a disastrous crowd surge. All of this was happening while Travis Scott continued his performance. It was said that the concert continued for roughly 40 minutes after the first person was crushed. One user wrote, "Travis got cancelled for this. I speak for everyone when we say we should hold GloRilla responsible for this as well." In response, another user tweeted, "The difference between GloRilla and Travis is that Travis watched and refused to stop. GloRilla, on the other hand, immediately ended the show once panic started to happen, so GloRilla didn't do anything." Other fans laid the blame on the venue itself and the size of the crowd. Someone wrote, "The fact that it's no one's fault besides the establishments, because they knew they were over capacity. Send love and condolences to the friends and family of those who are invited and has passed over." Sadly, this is far from the first time a tragedy like this has happened. Last year, South Korea saw one of the deadliest crowd crushes in recent history. On the evening of Saturday, the 29th of October, as many as 100,000 people poured into the narrow, sloping streets of Itaewon for a massive Halloween celebration. But just after 10 p.m., chaos erupted and witnesses reported seeing crowds surging in different directions. People lost their footing on the slope, which caused a domino effect. They were piled on top of each other and trapped. Some even tried to scale the sides of buildings to escape. In the end, more than 150 people died in the crush, and 196 were injured. These incidents occur when too many people push into a confined area, either on the way in or trying to get out, and no matter how calmly a crowd behaves, it can only fit through a narrow exit at a certain rate. So with concerts and festivals, we clearly need better crowd control. There's no question about it. The only thing people cannot agree on is whether or not we should blame the artist who's performing. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. And now, why is Elon Musk getting more and more paranoid? It's been reported that he is routinely followed around the company's headquarters by 2 bulky bodyguards, even when he goes to the restroom. The 2 bearded guards went viral back in January after they came with him to his fraud trial, and now they appear to have accompanied him to Twitter as well. One Twitter engineer who only identified himself as Sam told BBC News, "Wherever he goes in the office, there are at least 2 bodyguards, very bulky, tall Hollywood movie bodyguards, even when he goes to the restroom." He said the constant use of bodyguards suggested that Musk does not trust his remaining staff at Twitter. Now, there could be a number of reasons for this, but it does seem like paranoia, possibly because he has sacked a huge number of Twitter staff recently. What's more is that insiders who are still at the company have described a chaotic working environment where almost everyone in charge of online safety has been laid off. Current and former employees of the company have said that the features intended to protect users from trolling are now proving to be way too difficult to maintain. Several workers anonymously spoke to BBC about this, and one of them was the former head of content design. She says that everyone on her team team had been sacked, so she ended up resigning herself. This is extremely troubling considering that they were in charge of creating Twitter's safety measures, which reduced trolling by 60%. An engineer currently working at the company claimed that nobody's taking care of this type of work now. He described Twitter as a building that seems fine from the outside, but inside it's on fire. And there's plenty of reason to believe that he's telling the truth. There's now evidence that hate is thriving under Musk's leadership, with trolls emboldened, the online attacks are intensifying. There's been a spike in accounts following misogynistic profiles. A recent study conducted by Montclair State University revealed a spike in hate speech since the takeover. The study tracked how often homophobic, anti-Semitic, and racial hate-driven terms were used. Researchers found that about 398 hate tweets an hour were made in the 12 hours after the acquisition was finalized, a number that nearly quadrupled from the 84 tweets in the hour in the week leading up to it. Since taking charge, the tech billionaire set up what he calls a content moderation council that was composed of people with widely diverse viewpoints who were supposed to prevent the spread of misinformation and harmful content. But that very council that he put together has already fallen through. Without warning, he abruptly dissolved the team just moments before they were scheduled to meet with company representatives. So in reality, he might not have actually had a plan to stop the spread of hate speech on the platform. Instead, Musk seems to be preoccupied with something else. According to multiple reports, he's more worried about how many people are seeing his tweets. Last month, he made his account private for a day to test whether that might boost the size of his audience. But that didn't give him the answers he wanted. He then gathered a group of engineers and advisors into a room to figure it out. According to multiple sources, he asked something along the lines of, "Why are my engagement numbers tanking? This is ridiculous. I have more than 100 million followers, and I'm only getting tens of thousands of impressions." It was suggested that public interest in him is declining. Employees initially thought that his reach had been restricted somehow, but they found no evidence of that. So the answer is very simple: he's just not that popular anymore. But Musk did not take this news well, and he reportedly fired the engineer who presented him with that information. Ever since his takeover, it's been made pretty clear that he is something of a tyrant at Twitter, but all that intensity might have been for nothing, since Twitter usage in the US has declined almost 9% since the takeover. And with all things considered, that's really no surprise. And lastly, we now have a list of all the illegal substances Prince Harry has used and recommended. On Saturday, Harry sat down for a trauma therapy session with Dr. Gabor Mate, and the whole conversation was live streamed. Not everyone thinks that was a good idea because the revelations in this conversation will likely come back to bite him. The two men covered a range of topics, from Harry's use of psychedelics to the war in Afghanistan and the multi-generational emotional issues in his family. In fact, Harry really drove home that last one. We already suspected that the royals are not exactly huggers, but when Mate suggested he had a childhood that was deprived of touch, he agreed. Apparently, he was traumatized by his father's lack of physical affection, which never really went beyond a touch on the shoulder or the knee. This is something that Harry is very concerned about passing on to his own children, Archie and Lilibet. He said, "It leaves me in the position of a father having two children trying to smother them with love. I feel a huge responsibility not to pass on any trauma or negative experiences that I've had as a kid or as a man growing up. There are times when I catch myself when I should be smothering them with that love, but I might not be." So even though he doesn't entirely blame Charles for his lack of physical affection, Harry said he's now focused on breaking the cycle in his own family. He also condemns the kind of life they lead and describes them all as being in an unhealthy gilded cage. So again, he's doubling down on the idea that William and Kate are all very cold with each other, even behind closed doors. According to Harry, it was Meghan that saved him from this. He said, "I was stuck in this world and she was from a different world and helped draw me out of that. But none of the elements of my life now would have been possible without me seeing it for myself." Now we get into the most controversial part of the session. Eventually, the conversation turned to substances that he may have used to try and mask his trauma. Harry admitted that the infamous powdery substance didn't actually do anything for him, while the leafy green stuff really did help. But out of everything that he's tried, it's psychedelics that really blew his mind. He said, "I started doing it recreationally and then started to realize how good it was for me." In his book, we learned that he once took mushrooms at a party at Courtney Cox's house, and the results were interesting, but now he admits to doing a little bit more than that. He revealed to Dr. Mate that he once tried which is a hallucinogenic drink that's made by brewing the leaves of plants from the Amazon rainforest into a tea. He described the experience as cleaning a dirty windscreen and removing the filters that he saw life through. Quote, "It removed it all for me, and it brought me a sense of relaxation, release, comfort, a lightness that I imagined to hold on to for a long period of time." This is obviously something that the doctor would have agreed with, because in 2011, Mate was sternly warned by Health Canada against using the plant in treatments. Today, he's still a huge advocate of the substance substance when it comes to mental health care, but that's part of what makes him so controversial. Although Harry has a very positive outlook on these substances, he made it clear that he's very skeptical about Big Pharma. He asked Matte's opinion on prescriptions in a sort of way that made it seem like he's not a believer himself. Later, he brought up the highly contested theory that doctors are paid more when they prescribe medication. Overall, it was this part of the conversation that was really criticized. Journalist and Dr. Max Pemberton called his comments hugely irresponsible. He said, "Harry plainly has no understanding of the serious damage these substances can wreak on users, damage that I see on mental health hospital wards with upsetting frequency." In one of the stranger moments of the livestream, Harry looked visibly uncomfortable when Matte began to diagnose him with various mental health conditions. During the session, he got diagnosed with PTSD, depression, and ADD, or attention deficit disorder. Even though he was clearly surprised, Harry sort of goes along with it and says, "Okay, should I just accept that or should I look into it?" The doctor insists that he can do whatever he wants with that information, but it was obviously a bit of an awkward moment and very difficult to watch. Harry also confessed that he actually reads the Amazon reviews of his book, which means that he's clearly keeping tabs on what everyone's been saying about him. So what do you guys think about that latest story? Please let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you in the next video.